Hello, third grade, and welcome to Unit 1, Week 4 of Language Arts. We're going to start with your vocabulary words for this week. Your first word is design. When you design something, you make a plan. So you can design what a new playground is going to look like. So you'll make a plan for where things are in the playground, maybe where you'll put the slide and where you'll put the swing set. You may want to design the way your room looks. So you'll decide where you're going to put the furniture in your room, where your bread is going to go, where your dresser and your toys are going to go. Your second word is the word simple. Something that's simple is easy. So simple and easy are synonyms. They're words that have the same or similar meaning. Your third word is the word investigation. In an investigation, people search carefully for something. So investigation comes from the word investigate, or to search for. Your next word is the word encouraged. When you are encouraged, you were given hope or you're given help to do something. So if your teacher encourages you to read more challenging books, they're telling you that you can do it. They're helping you figure out some of the words that you don't know. They're making you feel good about yourself so that you can try and reach that new goal. Your next word is the word substitutes. So substitutes are when you have something that takes the place of something else. And an easy example is a substitute teacher. So a lot of times when we have a substitute teacher or a sub come in, it's because your regular teacher is out. Maybe they're not feeling well, and someone else comes and teaches the class instead. So substitutes are when you have something that takes the place of something else. Number 6 is quality. So when something is quality or it's a high quality thing, that means it's very good or it's very well made. It's not going to break very easy. It's going to be something that lasts you a long time, that someone was very careful when they were making it. Your next word is the word examine. When you examine something, you're looking very carefully at it. You're trying to figure out everything you can about it by looking at it and taking your time. And the word solution is an answer or a way to fix something. So if you have a problem, you find a solution. If you're answering your math questions, you're solving so that you can find your solution or your answer. So a solution is a way to fix your problem. Now we're going to go into your spelling words for this week. Your spelling words are going to focus on the long A sound and the different ways that we can make long A. So we have AI, we have AY, we have a consonant letter E, we have EIGH that also makes the A sound, we have EY that makes the A sound, and then we have some of your review words from before. So your words for this this week are plain, grade, fail, grain, snail, paint, sway, tray, gray, stay, state, fake, same, way, they, fine, skate, globe, slay, and afraid. Now your grammar this week, we're still working on sentences and we're talking about complete subjects and complete predicates. Now we know that a sentence is a group of words that will express a complete thought for us. And every complete sentence has two parts. It's got your subject and your predicate. So your complete subject and your complete predicate, to be more specific. And a complete subject can be one word, or it could be more than one word. And it tells us what or whom the sentence is about. So if I say the silly students told funny stories, my subject, my complete subject, so all of the words about my subject or that describe my subject are the silly students, because that's who my sentence is about. Now my complete predicate tells me what the subject is or does, and predicates could also be more than one word. So in my same sentence, the silly students told funny stories. What did my silly students do? The answer to that question is going to be my predicate. So what did they do? They told funny stories. Now, you can have two predicates and you can join them together with the word and to make a compound predicate. Now remember, we said before, compound means when you're putting two things or more than two things together. So I can say the silly students told funny stories and played crazy games. So my joining word is the word and it tells me the two things that they did. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about sentence fragments and run-on sentences. A fragment means, the word fragment means a piece of something or a part of something. It's not the whole thing, it's just one small piece. So a fragment doesn't have both the subject and the predicate. It's usually missing one or the other. And you can correct it by either adding in the missing subject or adding in the missing predicate. So one way to know which part is missing is if you're missing the who, you know that you're missing the subject. And if you're missing the what, so what they did or what they are, that's going to be your predicate. So I can't say went to the park because I don't know who went to the park. So I ask myself, who? If I have to ask myself who did this, then I know that I'm missing my subject and I'm going to add one in. I can say Faiza went to the park. Now I can have a subject and no predicate and I can say the boys. Well, which boys? What did they do? What are they? I can say the boys played soccer. Now I have a predicate. I know what the boys did. Now we can also talk about run-on sentences. So run-on sentences are when you're putting together two sentences that should be separated. So you can correct a run-on sentence either by separating the two ideas into two sentences, or later on we'll talk about adding commas and other words to separate those ideas. Now we can correct a run-on sentence by separating those two ideas into two separate sentences. So I'm going to give you an example of a run-on sentence and how we're going to fix it. Now listen to the sentence and you'll see that there's too much going on there. You can tell that they should be separated. There should be a stop somewhere in between. So if I say, my sister and I went to the beach, we were so excited to see the blue skies and big waves. We know there's a lot of ideas going on in there and they're not all the same thing. So we need to figure out how to separate them from each other. So I can say, my sister and I went to the beach, period. We were so excited to see the blue skies and big waves. Now my two sentences make sense. Now at the bottom here, I have 3 helpful videos for you. So I do want you to stop and take time to open up these videos. Each one will link you to a different video for you to watch. This one was linked to you guys last week. In case you didn't watch it, now is a good time for you to do that. I also have another video specifically about run-on sentences for you here. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump into your weekly stories, and we're going to talk about everything we're going to learn there. So this week we're going on to Unit 1, Week 4. So Week 4 is going to be our story, All Aboard Elijah McCoy's Steam Engine. And this is a biography, which means it's a story about someone's life. It's real, so it's a nonfiction story.
Genre, biography. All Aboard Elijah McCoy's Steam Engine by Monica Culling. Illustrated by Bill Slavin. Essential question. How can problem solving lead to new ideas? Read about Elijah McCoy's idea. Find out how it made train travel safer and faster. Summer days were mowing days in Colchester, Ontario. Elijah McCoy watched his father cut the tall grass. He was waiting for the machine to break. When it did, he jumped for joy. Elijah was only 6, but already he was good at tinkering with tools. Elijah McCoy was born in 1844. His parents had come to Canada on the Underground Railroad. They didn't talk much about the slave days. Elijah and his 11 brothers and sisters kept them busy. Elijah's mother and father saved every penny they could to send Elijah to school. At 16, he crossed the ocean to study in Scotland. Elijah had a dream. He wanted to work with machines. He wanted to become a mechanical engineer. In 1866, Elijah finished school in Scotland. His family now lived in Michigan. One day, a locomotive rolled into the station with Elijah on board. His mind was crackling with ideas. In Michigan, he was going to be an engineer. Elijah went looking for work at the Michigan Central Railroad. "It takes learning to be an engineer," said the boss, spitting at Elijah's feet. "I got ashcat work if you want it. Ain't hard. You bail it in, you grease the pig." "Excuse me?" said Elijah. "You shovel coal into the firebox," replied the boss slowly. "You oil the wheels, you oil the bearings. It's not hard." What a letdown. Elijah knew engines inside out. He knew how to design them. He knew how to build them. He also knew the boss didn't think much of him because he was black. But Elijah needed work, so he took the job. The steam locomotive was exciting. People called it the Iron Horse. It was a fire-breathing monster. When it had a head of steam, it was faster than a horse and buggy. Feeding coal into the firebox was hot, hard work. It was also tricky. The fire boiled the water. The boiling water made steam. The steam worked the machinery. If the fire got too hot, the boiler might explode. If it wasn't hot enough, the train wouldn't move, or it couldn't climb the smallest hill. Elijah went to work in old clothes. An ashcat's job was a dirty one. Soon Elijah was covered in soot and cinders. Stop and check. Ask and answer questions. How did Elijah feel about his job as an ashcat? Reread pages 80 and 81 to find the answer. A boy was under the train. His clothes smelled of oil. "That's your grease monkey," said the boss. "He'll oil the places you can't get to." A grease monkey was paid pennies a day. At night, he slept on the train's grimy floor. The work was dangerous, and boys often got hurt, or worse. There has to be a safer way, thought Elijah. Elijah baled in the coal as fast as he could. Sweat poured down his face. His hands were raw. The water in the boiler took time to heat up. While Elijah baled, the grease monkey clambered around, oiling. Finally, the train was tanked up, ready for its run. The engine huffed and puffed. Smoke billowed from its stack. The wheels clacked. The locomotive chugged along for about half an hour. Chug, chug, chug. Suddenly, screech! The train stopped cold. The boy hopped down and crawled under the wheels. Elijah hopped down with his oil can. The passengers stayed put. They waited, and waited some more. "All aboard!" cried the conductor. The pig was greased and ready to go. Chug, chug, chug. The passengers looked out at the passing farms. They talked, they ate, they laughed. Half an hour later, screech! Time to grease the pig again. What a job! Elijah didn't know which part he hated more, feeding the firebox or oiling the engine. Stop and check. Ask and answer questions. Why was early train travel so slow? Reread pages 84 and 85 to find the answer. The train's metal parts needed oil to work smoothly. Without oil, the parts would stick and wear down. The train would stop. While Elijah scooped coal, his mind sparked with ideas. Could he invent an oil cup that oiled the engine while the train was running? Every night after work, Elijah made drawings. Finally, he had a drawing of an oil cup he knew would work. It took 2 years for Elijah to make a model of his oil cup. In 1872, he applied for a patent to protect his invention. Then he took the metal cup to work. "There's a hole here to let the oil drip out," Elijah told the boss. "It drips oil when oil is needed. It drips it where it's needed. It's simple. Why not give it a try?" Surprisingly, the boss agreed. Elijah attached the cup to the engine. "Just for the Kalamazoo run," added the boss gruffly. The train rumbled off, heading for Kalamazoo, Michigan. The engine huffed and puffed. Smoke billowed from its stack. The wheels clacked. The train chugged along for half an hour. Chug, chug, chug. Everyone wondered when the train would stop. But it didn't. It chugged along for another half hour. And another. Stop and check. Visualize. What do you think the train ride was like? Use the descriptions to visualize the ride. Elijah Mccoy's oil cup worked. It oiled the engine while the train was running. The train reached Kalamazoo in record time. The grease monkey was safe. Elijah was happy. Elijah Mccoy's oil cup made train travel faster and safer. Elijah worked on engine inventions all his life. He followed his dream. When Elijah got older, he encouraged children to stay in school and to follow their dreams too. The real McCoy. Have you ever heard someone say they want the real McCoy? It means they want the real thing. No knockoffs, no substitutes. Other inventors copied Elijah Mccoy's oil cup, but their drip cups didn't work as well. When engineers wanted to make sure they got the best oil cup, they asked for the real McCoy. Was Elijah McCoy a one-hit wonder? No way. He was an inventing marvel. During his lifetime, he filled 57 patents, more than any other black inventor. Most of his inventions had to do with engines, but several did not. Elijah invented a portable ironing board, a lawn sprinkler, and even a better rubber heel for shoes. Want the best quality? Ask for the real McCoy.
Okay, so that took us to the end of our first story. We do have another short story afterwards, still in our same literature anthology book, that uses our same vocabulary words. So we're going to go through that before we hop into your reading and writing workshop book.
Genre: Biography. Compare texts. Read about how Thomas Edison's inventions made the world a better place to live. Lighting the world. A bright idea. In 1878, Thomas Alva Edison started an investigation. It would light up the world. Back then, homes and streets were lit by gas. People wanted to use electricity to light their homes. No one had found a good way to do it. Edison and his helpers tried to make an electric light bulb. In an electric light bulb, a strip of material gets hot and glows. However, the strip burned up too quickly. Edison examined many materials. None of them worked. He even tried beard hair. Then he tried bamboo. A strip of bamboo glowed for a long time inside the bulb. Edison's idea for the light bulb was a success. Edison's solutions went beyond the light bulb. He designed power plants to make electricity. He designed a system to bring electricity into homes. Because of Edison, most people have light and electricity today. Edison changed the world with his many inventions. It's electric. Thomas Edison did many experiments with electricity. You can do an experiment with electricity too. Investigate static electricity. Static electricity is an electric charge. It can build up when objects are rubbed together. Static electricity can pull objects together or push them apart. Static electricity experiment. 1. Cut several small pieces of tissue paper. 2. Place the pieces of paper on a table. 3. Hold the comb over the papers. What happens? 4. Now rub the comb on the wool about 10 times. 5. Hold the comb over the paper. Materials: scissors, plastic comb, wool scarf or sweater, tissue paper. What happens to the paper? What causes the paper to stick to the comb? Talk about your investigation with a partner.
Genre: Biography. Mary Anderson's Great Invention. You might think that a ride in a bus or car is the same today as it was long ago. That isn't true. The first cars were not as fast. They were noisy. Cars didn't even have windshield wipers. When it rained, drivers rubbed their windshields with an onion. The oil from the onion would repel or keep off rain and sleet. It wasn't the best solution, but there were no better substitutes. Nothing else worked. Then a woman named Mary Anderson solved the problem. It started with snow. Mary Anderson grew up in Alabama. In the winter of 1902, she went to New York City. It was a cold and windy day. The sky was a gray curtain. Snow was a white blanket on the ground. Mary was cold and wet. Because she wanted to warm up and get dry, she rode a streetcar. Back then, some streetcar windshields had two parts. They opened with a push. From her seat, Mary watched snow and ice build up on the windshield. The streetcar driver could not see. So he pushed open the windshield. This helped him to see better. As a result, snow and ice blew in his face. Soon his nose and ears were ice cubes. Other cars kept stopping too. Sometimes the drivers hopped out. They wiped off their windshields. Then they got back in and drove. As a result, traffic moved slowly. The next step. Mary thought about this problem. How could drivers clean their windshields without stopping? Could they do it without opening their windshield? Back home in Alabama, Mary sketched her idea. Then she added notes. She wanted to examine her solution to make sure that it worked. Next, Mary did her own investigation. She looked for facts about what drivers needed. She invented a windshield wiper that a driver could use from inside the car. Then she worked out a design or plan. On paper, Mary's invention looked simple. She hoped drivers would find it easy to use. Mary Anderson's windshield wiper. Window, wiper. The first windshield wiper was moved by a handle inside the car. Mary had a model built. It was made of quality wood, rubber, and metal. Soon the model was ready to test. It was fitted on a windshield. The driver moved a handle inside the car. The handle caused a blade to move back and forth across the glass. It worked. Mary's idea was a gem. She felt encouraged and was sure it would sell. Solving the problem. Mary's windshield wipers solved a problem. But it took many years before people used them. That's because most people did not own cars. By 1913, more people bought and drove cars. Those cars had windshields. Finally, windshield wipers began to sell. Driving became safer and easier because of Mary Anderson's idea. Safer to drive. Cars from long ago were different from cars we ride in today. Here are some more inventions that helped make driving safer. The first seatbelts were used in 1885. Cars stopped at the first stop sign in 1915. Cars first used turn signals in 1938. Make connections. Talk about how Mary Anderson's solution to a problem led to a new idea. What invention? Make connections. Talk about how Mary Anderson's solution to a problem led to a new idea. What inventions can you think of that have made your life better?
All right, so we're going to go ahead and get into our comprehension skill and strategy, and we're going to work on asking and answering questions about the text to help us get a better understanding of what the author is trying to tell us. We're also going to use cause and effect to understand how things are related or how one thing leads to another.
Ask and answer questions. Ask yourself questions as you read Mary Anderson's great invention. Then look for details to support your answers. Find text evidence. Look at the section, "It started with snow," on page 72. Think of a question. Then read to answer it. It started with snow. Mary Anderson grew up in Alabama. In the winter of 1902, she went to New York City. It was a cold and windy day. The sky was a gray curtain. Snow was a white blanket on the ground. Mary was cold and wet. Because she wanted to warm up and get dry, she rode a streetcar. Back then, some streetcar windshields had two parts. They opened with a push. From her seat, Mary watched snow and ice build up on the windshield. The streetcar driver could not see. So he pushed open the windshield. This helped him to see better. As a result, snow and ice blew in his face. Soon his nose and ears were ice cubes. Other cars kept stopping too. Sometimes the drivers hopped out. They wiped off their windshields. Then they got back in and drove. As a result, traffic moved slowly. I have a question. Why did drivers push open their windshields? I read that windshields had two parts. The driver pushed it open. This helped him see where he was going. Now I can answer my question. Opening the windshield helped the driver see better. Cause and effect. A cause is why something happens. An effect is what happens. They happen in time order. Signal words such as because and as a result show cause and effect. Find text evidence. On page 72, I read that Mary rode a streetcar. This is the effect. Now I can find the cause. Mary was cold and wet. She wanted to warm up and get dry. The signal word, because, helped me find the cause and effect. Graphic organizer. Cause, effect. Cause, first. Mary was cold and wet and wanted to warm up. Effect. Mary rode a streetcar. Cause, next. Snow and ice built up on the streetcar's windshield. Effect.
So here, after we see that the snow and ice built up on the streetcar's windshield, we know that the driver stopped and he opened the window. And by stopping and opening the window, then snow and ice ended up inside of the car, and it made everyone colder and wetter. Now let's talk about our genre for today. We're talking about biographies. Biographies are a kind of informational text or a kind of nonfiction writing where it's somebody writing about somebody else's life. It's not you writing about your own life. It's writing that was done about someone else.
Biography. Mary Anderson's great invention is a biography. A biography tells the true story of a real person's life and is written by another person, is told in sequence or time order, may have diagrams or sidebars. Find text evidence. Mary Anderson's great invention is a biography. It is a true story about a person's life. It is written by another person. The events are told in order. Text features. Diagrams. Diagrams are simple drawings with labels. Sidebars. Sidebars give more information about a topic.
So these are some of the text features that we had in this story. Other text features we have are headings, bold-faced words, things that are highlighted, anything that's in the text that's used to draw our attention towards something so that we're able to pay attention to it. Now, this week, we're also going to be talking about metaphors. Now, metaphors are when we're comparing two things that are not the same. And we're doing that without using the words like or as. So a metaphor is when you are comparing two things that are very different and you are not using the words like or as. You're saying something is something else. So you can say her eyes were bright blue skies, or the classroom is a hot desert, if the air conditioning is turned off.
Metaphors. The sun is a yellow ball is a metaphor. A metaphor compares two things that are very different. Look for metaphors as you read. Find text evidence. On page 72, I see the sentence, "The sky was a gray curtain." This is a metaphor. It compares the sky to a gray curtain. It means that the sky was dark and cloudy. This metaphor helps me picture a dark and gloomy sky. The sky was a gray curtain.
Write about the text. I answered the question, what problem was Mary Anderson trying to solve with her invention? Explain using text evidence.
So in this section, we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the things we covered in grammar, and you're going to see a few examples of complete subjects and complete predicates in this writing piece.
Mary Anderson thought that drivers needed to see better in bad weather. Rain and snow would hit a car's windshield. That made it hard to see the road. Mary decided to solve this problem. Her idea was a windshield wiper that was controlled from inside a car. First, she sketched her ideas. Next, she added notes to her sketches. Then she had a model made of her invention. Last, a driver tested the new windshield wiper. It worked.
So here we can see that we do have complete subjects and complete predicates. We also have our sequence words, and some of them, of course, have commas, and we talked about ones that have commas and that the word then does not have a comma after it.
Topic sentence. My first sentence tells about the problem Mary Anderson saw. Grammar. Decided to solve this problem is the complete predicate of this sentence. Supporting details. I used text evidence to answer the question. time order words. I added words to connect ideas and put events in order.
Okay, so that takes us through the end of our notes for this week. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. Please make sure that you're completing your work on time and that the work that you're turning in is neat and correct and that it has your full name and date on each page. And please make sure you're turning things in on time by the due date. All right, that's all I have for you for this week, third grade. I hope you guys have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.